Emma Watson's Atonement just got much bigger in the JK Rowling arc. Emma's apology was already incoming and already past due. All she needed to say was sorry, at which point she would already be covered by the Little Women movie adaptation in 2019 by Greta Gerwig. It would be an apology for things that happened when Daniel Radcliffe burned the bridge and Emma basically signed on. So with the bridge crumbled in the rubble, Emma Watson now emerges in her podcast luxury lounge to say Harry Potter is such a good series and Joe was so sweet to Emma specifically, so can we just ignore everything else and just hang out like the happy times they had at movie premieres? Well, the big issue here is that Emma and Joe have been keeping their distance on the basis of a disagreement that, to me, seemed like a deal breaker. Not all disagreements are deal breakers. You can stay friends if you're not on the same page about Red Sox versus Yankees, Nickelback music, sex before marriage, stuff like that. Love will always win. But other disagreements could mean that you can't be friends anymore or do business together, like a severe disagreement about democracy. Arnold Schwarzenegger had to break up with the president because of a democracy situation, and climate change too. Kanye lost most of his social network about the topic of DNA. Cut ties. So Joe's deal-breaking topic was shelters. Specifically, what should be the protocol for bouncers at a shelter, as one component of the overall tension. So now in this new podcast, Emma is suddenly moving the shelter topic from here over to the first category. It shouldn't be a deal breaker anymore. So if they disagree about the shelters, they can still have dinner and do professional collabs, while 9/11 remains a deal breaker. Dave Chappelle is doing that comedy festival out in Saudi Arabia, but it's a complete deal breaker for Shane Gillis. He said, "You don't 9/11 your friends," even after they offered Shane double pay for the gig. That's taken a stand, but now you see Emma just fall back. She says, when all this controversy happened, there was never a chance to talk if we only talked it through. It's like, what? This was 2020, during the stay-at-home lockdowns. This was literally the optimal time to be available. Open Zoom and click on Joe's face. Your text messaging is set up for that. There's a toggle to go right to video call. One click. As a longtime Harry Potter fan, I've been thinking it over. There I am streaming Order of the Phoenix and getting to that first Luna Lovegood scene. And I wonder to myself, if the moment Emma started to change her tune on Joe Rowling was the day HBO said, let's do this. It's not TV, it's HBO, with Joe. But Emma dug herself deeper, and now there's a bigger trench between her and Simone Biles, among others on paper. Has Emma Watson even read the Harry Potter books, or only the script for each movie? Because the later books touch upon the importance of Ravenclaws, of the Lovegood variety. They may not be flawless or ready-made for Homecoming Queen, but it's important that Ravenclaws are free to move about the frontier freely, without being intimidated or otherized. You saw what happened with the lab leak theory. Emma may not always understand what's happening out on the frontier, but Joe has always been out on the frontier 10 steps ahead of Emma, living life in the real world. Emma is just forwarding likes on social media. Joe could be a Gryffindor, maybe one of the main ones. At least looking at Dumbledore's remarks in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, as announced by actor Richard Harris in the first movie, and I quote, "It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends." And you know, a true Gryffindor always honors the legitimacy of all four houses. That's something that every Harry Potter fan would be expected to live by. I have to remain faithful to the lessons that video games like Celeste have brought me. You look at the mountain ahead straight in the eye and finish the job. Climb all the way to the top of Celeste Mountain. No excuses, no extenuating circumstances. Do or do not. There is no try. You know that you can, and that it will be great. You guys ready for a twist? This is kind of like that moment at the end of each Harry Potter book where Dumbledore talks to Harry for a while and drops a few plot bombshells. Okay? Here, Emma Watson's in the headlines in 2025 for this podcast because she wants to have her cake and eat it too. But Rupert Grint already did that in 2022. You just didn't hear about it because it's Rupert. In 2022, he said, "I liken JK Rowling to an auntie. I don't necessarily agree with everything my auntie says, but she's still my auntie." There's Wacky Joe. He's been breaking bread with Joe all along, at least on paper. Daniel simply has not spoken to Joe since all this went down. So if Daniel and Rupert have any sense of values or integrity, this would cause a rift between them. Joe said things about Emma that are harsh enough that you gather the friendship is in a stasis, like a separation rather than a divorce. Story of my life here on YouTube. But with Rupert, you wouldn't hear about it. He had that Netflix show called Sick Note, but they took it down off of Netflix to stop paying residuals, if it wasn't worth it based on the internal viewership stats that Netflix can see in the analytics. It's like being taken off Broadway in the streaming era. Daniel was only the main actor that directly inferred, "JK Rowling, bad." But the most he can manage is to talk around it in his wussy little way of saying, "I think it's really sad." Or he says Joe is guilty of erasing. But his application of the word erase is far too rhetorical to mean anything. That was just kind of Daniel venting among friends. All that happened is that new rights were on the table, and they were drastically different and rapidly implemented, and not everyone was on board. Joe took a stand to make sure no one at the shelter got erased, and to make sure no one's erased at the volleyball scholarship gala. No one feels good about those bruises. Right now, I'm not going to tell Emma who Peyton McNabb is, or what a fencing response is. Emma needs to discover those herself in real time so as to disagree with Joe, as she did on this Silver Spoon podcast. Emma Watson could apologize for each bruise. Is she going to say, "Oh, I got swept up in the social storm"? Luna Lovegood acknowledged as much, while Emma is still pending. The bruises were collateral damage. So if Emma is just blowing around in the wind like that, throwing her weight into further alienating Joe, Emma's creating a hostile work environment, where Joe didn't even go to the movie reunion special, Harry Potter 20th Anniversary, Return to Hogwarts, on HBO Max. Joe could have gone, chose not to. So given Emma's podcast foot in mouth, it's time to specify her new atonement relayed by yours truly, Alex Yard, here at 91.6 WAYZ, the Alex Yard Zone, terrestrial internet radio deep in the heart of Boston. Here in Boston, where we pronounce the word car just like Emma does. You drop the R. When Emma got her bachelor's in New England, her R drops were consistent with New England's accent, because Boston inherited the Queen's English specifically, while the rest of America went on to restore those R's as a goof and stuck with it. I mean, the R is right there on the page, so you can see why. So at this point, Emma's atonement requires forfeiting her credibility for the next 20 years. When she's with friends and family, she can wax philosophical all she likes, but telling other people how to live and what to believe, planet-wide, no way. She has work to do, a lot. 20 years, maybe parole in 10, but she would have to earn it. Emma would need to make a couple of documentaries that prove her growth after however long it takes. For now, Emma's perspective is worthless. Her moral judgments are wishy-washy. So my parting remarks for Miss Emma Watson are, I don't know you. You haven't put a very good foot forward in this fairy tale Hollywood life story you've enjoyed as an actress. The Sofia Coppola vehicle wasn't enough? All Emma needs to do is reach out to Luna Lovegood for guidance on next steps. Or just pull up your text messages with Joe and maybe click the video call toggle. Emma has been able to apologize all along. Good night, everyone. All is well.